loves. Oh my goodness, do I have a special episode in store for you today. I sit down with the one and only Rosie Rees, the founder of Yoni Pleasure Palace, the crystal sex toy company that, hello, I know you guys all love just like me. And I know that you guys have been putting in your orders because it's also our podcast sponsor. And I honestly couldn't think of a more aligned brand to partner with on this show. So, Rosie is like a long lost sister. We sit down and we talk all about self-pleasure. We talk about destigmatizing masturbation. We talk about sex toys. We talk about oral sex. We talk about her journey from always being in relationships with men to now being in a partnership with a woman and having a conscious conception. This woman is just such a goddess, and she is just breaking down stigmas left, right, and center. I'm so excited for you to listen to this episode. Let's do it.
Rosie Rees, my sister from another mister. I'm so glad to have you here on the show. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mel. You do feel like a sister. I feel like I've known you so long.
I know, it's crazy. But I actually remember us first connecting, I think maybe 4 years ago. We were both obviously very different older versions of ourselves, but I remember I was following you because you were the naked yoga girl. And that was where I think I started following you. And I just remember you taking groups of women out and doing this naked yoga. And I remember just being that is so incredibly amazing. And also at the same time, terrifying for a lot of people, even though obviously being naked is completely our most natural state. But I would love if we could start there. How did you get into naked yoga, and how did this lead on to sex toys and crystal wands and all of the incredible work that you're now doing?
Good question. And I feel like one naked awakening led to the sexual awakening for me. So you know what? It started as a very young girl. My dad actually lived in Tokyo, and we used to go to onsens. I don't know if you've heard of Japanese onsens, but they're basically like hot springs. And the custom, the tradition is to be completely naked. You can't wear any modesty bikinis or anything like that. You can take a little towel in with you. And I remember being 14 or 15 and going into the female one with my stepmom and my sister. And of course I felt like it was pretty weird. But as I kept going back to Japan and having this experience, I was like, this is so incredibly normal. Even sauna culture in Scandinavia, it's very normalized to be naked. And I realized that in Australia, you think we're really open-minded people, and to some extent we are. But when it comes to nudity and sexuality, we are actually very, very suppressed and conservative. And so when I did my yoga training in 2012, I kind of had a bit of an awakening in 2012 after an abusive relationship. It was very toxic and controlling, and it just broke me down to a shell of who I am today. And I had this I went to a Tony Robbins seminar, which, I don't know if you've done that before, but I had an interview.
Oh, yes. I love
you
Tony.
haven't lived, unless you've had a Tony Robbins experience. And we actually had a intervention, and I had this full-on awakening that I was in this really unhealthy, toxic relationship. And after that seminar, I left him. I left my corporate job in Sydney, where I was trying to climb this corporate ladder, but I was at the same time drinking copious amounts of wine to cope with the day and smoking cigarettes like a chimney, and just so unhealthy and unhappy. And so I quit everything, as you do, packed up my life into a few boxes and went to India and became a yoga teacher and all that kind of stuff. And then when I moved over to Perth, which is on the western coast of Australia, I knew no one. It was a new start for me. My whole family kind of migrated over here. And I moved into this beach shack with this guy who I didn't know it at the time. I probably wouldn't have moved in with him if I knew. But I was open-minded, and he was a nudist. And so sort of as I started to become more comfortable talking about stuff with him, he was like, Rosie, just, feel free to be naked in this house if you'd like to. And so I did. I just, when he was out of the house, I used to go and do my yoga practice naked under the trees, under the sun. And it was the most, well, it was two things. It was euphoric, but it was also, I could not believe how nasty I was to my body. I couldn't believe how I looked down at my body and was like, I hate that my belly's not flat. I hate my nipples that they're too big or the wrong color or the wrong shape. I don't like, oh my God, the list was just endless. And after coming back from the beach every day and doing my yoga sessions naked outside, I had this incredible meditation that it felt like this little idea just popped into my brain and was like, you need to teach this for women. Like if you're having this powerful experience, because the more I showed up on my yoga mat naked, just in the privacy of my own backyard, the more I realized, hey, I'm normal. Hey, I'm beautiful. And, I can learn to embrace these perceived imperfections and flaws. And so I launched my first nude yoga class in 2013. And I was terrified that I was going to be, trashed by the media and no one would turn up. And you know what, Mel, the opposite thing happened. I had a waiting list of women and I sold out 3 workshops in a row. And I was like, actually, there's something in this. And it's not just a yoga class, it's a whole experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. One of the things that I love about you is I just feel so deeply like how much it means to you to not just be on your own healing journey and your transformation, but to then pass that on. Like every single thing that you do that creates like a huge transformational experience within you, I feel like this is why I really relate to you, because I feel like I do this as well, like turning that into something for other women to go on their journey with as well, rather than kind of just having it and keeping it. You're really like, how can I share this? How can I get this out to as many people as possible? Which I just think is so, so inspiring.
Absolutely. And it terrified the shit out of me to actually go and do it. It's not like I was like, oh, this will be a piece of cake, let's just go do it. Like I had the experience and then I was like, oh my God, are you kidding? Like I was talking to my soul self, like, are you kidding me, Rosie? Like you want me to go and teach this naked yoga that's never been taught in Australia that I knew of? And so it's not like it was easy. And that's what I love about nude yoga is it cultivates courage. Like I really had to cultivate all this courage and bravery and like boldness to put myself out there and really fly the flag of just fucking love your body as it is, because we are so hard on ourselves day to day and we see all these, photoshopped images and, the more I started doing naked yoga, and I tell everyone who comes to my classes, keep coming back because you shed these layers. You shed this layer of like what you think you should be, and you shed this layer of what you think your partner thinks you should be. Like it's all these shoulds just get shedded away with taking off your clothes. It's incredible what happens when you do remove your clothes. It's more that it's quite symbolic. Yeah.
I completely agree. One of the tools or practices that I'm always sharing with clients is just like getting them to be more naked, to spend more time naked. And it's always such a surprise to me how many women don't spend any time naked, not even asleep, not even when they go to bed. And so even just that, for a lot of people, sleeping naked can be completely groundbreaking and life-changing, because they're spending time with their naked body. They're coming home to themselves and then, doing things like going and making your morning cup of coffee with no clothes on, and going and like dancing naked, or, making your breakfast naked is so transformational and such a powerful tool. And yet it's so simple. It's who we really are. It should be the most natural thing. So speaking of natural things, I want to get on to speaking about self-pleasure and your journey, because you now, to so many women all over the world, really you are queen of self-pleasure, queen of these new crystal sex toys and jade eggs, and you really are a champion for women really taking back self-pleasure and celebrating their bodies and celebrating their yonis. And you are the obviously the founder of Yoni Pleasure Palace, which we are so grateful and honored to be partnering with and to have you as our sponsor. Could not think of a better sponsor for this show, so thank you. But how did all this come about? Like, were you into self-pleasure before? Were you using a vibrator? Like, how did this even come your way, this idea or this practice?
Well, it's funny. Like when I remember when I was about 12 years old, I discovered my clitoris, and I remember I pushed my body up against my bedroom door because I didn't want anyone to come in on me, touching this new foreign place in my body that I was like, whoa, and I remember touching it thinking, I don't know if this feels good or bad. Like was really confused. I didn't know what it was. I had zero education about periods, pleasure, anything. Like, of course, most of us haven't had too much. Hopefully it's changing now. But I remember just rubbing my clitoris really vigorously. And then I was like, oh no, I'm going to stop because I don't want someone to walk in. I don't want to feel ashamed and I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm just going to stop. And so I literally did not touch my clitoris again for another maybe 5-6 years. However, I remember when I was maybe about 14 or 15, I found my cervix. And I used to insert my fingers into my yoni, into my vagina. Most evenings when I was in the shower, I went to a boarding school, so we had zero privacy. We all slept in a dorm with 4 other girls. So inside the shower, I would put my fingers inside my vagina and actually press up against my cervix, and it felt like I would have an internal orgasm. I didn't know that then, but I just remember it feeling amazing. And yet no one ever, again, even in the girls' boarding house, no one spoke about self-pleasure or masturbation. So I just kept it to myself. So I always knew I had a lot of pleasure internally. And it wasn't until I was about 19, after I broke up with my first boyfriend, I went to a sex toy shop, bought a vibrator, and it was one of those ones that goes inside your vagina and has the vibrator on top. And it was just, I didn't leave the bedroom for like days.
Yeah.
I was obsessed. And then it just evolved from there. So I was like, because I went to Sexpo and we got this sex toy bag. And I was just obsessed with self-pleasure, but it was all vibrators. And I would do anal play on myself, vibrators inside my vagina, vibrating on my clit. And it was amazing. I probably did this for like 5 years, like pretty consistently using my vibrator. And I loved it. And after that, I went to that Tony Robbins seminar. I actually became a relationship coach through the Robbins Madonnas Institute. And so I had this blog, and I was starting to blog a lot about relationships and getting out of abusive relationships and all this kind of stuff. And then I was like, it would be really aligned for me to sell vibrators. So I'm going to start an online shop with vibrators. And so I had all my favorite vibrators that I'd tried, and they were all ready to go, drop shipping, and it was all planned. And then I went to Bali and did my second yoga teacher training with Kundalini Yoga, and went to a Jade Egg workshop while I was there. And I remember this 4-hour workshop where we all were given this divine, beautiful nephrite jade egg, and we cleansed it and we washed it and we infused it with intention, and we rolled this egg. It was so foreign to me as well. We rolled this egg all over our body and just were making sounds and doing all this gorgeous yoga before we put the egg inside of our body. And even that, this is before Nude yoga was sort of birthed. This is right at the beginning. And I remember putting this egg, so we're all facing outwards, and we all put the egg inside of our vagina. And I will just never forget that feeling of coming home to my body, like reclaiming my yoni and feeling this it was a healing, an internal healing of all the times I was penetrated when it wasn't a full-bodied yes, when I'd, maybe even touched myself in a way that wasn't fully consensual, even using tampons and pads and not listening to my yoni, all the times that I had thrush or bacterial vaginosis and just would still continue to sleep around and would still not use condoms with certain people. And it just putting this egg in my body, I just remember crying and crying and crying and just holding my womb. It was the first time I connected to my yoni in a way that wasn't needing to give something to somebody else or get something. Like, it wasn't to give pleasure to a man, it wasn't to get an orgasm for myself. It was just purely reconnecting. And after that experience, I was like, well, I never want to use a vibrator again.
Wow.
I only want to use this egg. And I literally threw away all my vibrators. I deleted the shop from my site that wasn't even published. And I just knew I just started self-pleasuring with my egg, to be honest, just using this one beautiful jade egg in and out of my yoni and starting to have these internal orgasms, which I'd never experienced. I'd never had a G-spot orgasm, other than that cervical orgasm that I think I had when I was 15. The yoni egg just started to awaken and enhance all this sensuality and sensation inside my body that I didn't even know existed. And it was just such a simple tool. I couldn't believe it. It was like, doesn't vibrate, doesn't need batteries. It's just this beautiful tool to reclaim that space.
Wow, that's incredible. I think there's going to be so many people listening that are thinking the exact same thing. Like, how can an egg, putting an egg inside your vagina create that kind of a healing and that kind of an orgasm? Like, it's just an egg. Like, where does it reach to? It's not vibrating. Like, how does that even work? Can you like describe a little bit of like what's actually going on when you are having an orgasm from yoni egg practice and what you need to do with the egg? Because I think, there's obviously a practice around it. It's not just stick the egg in, walk around the house, So what advice do you have around this? And can you explain and describe like what's actually going on if you're doing it right?
Well, essentially, the egg is a weight at the end of the day. It's a weight that you put inside your vagina, and it helps it acts as a weight resistance, basically, to keep those muscles toned and strong and flexible and that kind of thing. So that's kind of what's happening on a physiological level. Is you're just like you go to the gym and lift weights, it gives your body something to lift. It's the same concept with our vagina. If we don't use it, we lose it. So, and we're not taught about this as young girls. Often we kind of get to pregnancy or after pregnancy and go, oh shit, my pelvic floor is, I'm weeing when I sneeze, So I think it is important. Like, I started when I was 26. I hadn't had kids. I didn't have any pelvic floor issues. However, I was very disconnected to my body. I was very disconnected from the belly button down. I was very connected to my clitoris by that stage and having those climatic, external, explosive orgasms, but I most certainly really didn't know what was available internally. So I'll just preface this by saying not everybody will have that experience that I had. I feel like I don't want to set everyone up to be like having these, moments of euphoria. Like, that might not happen for you. It might come down the track. For me, it was just the timing, the place, the setting, the intention, like everything. I'd never done any of that before, so it was very new to me. And I didn't start to have orgasms straight away. It definitely took a few months for me to basically resensitize my vulva to receiving pleasure from something that wasn't vibrating. And so for me, what I used to do was I'd sit back, usually on the floor actually, and I'd have something behind me, and I always had a mirror in front of me. So I've never really been into porn or anything like that, but I think it's really beautiful to watch yourself and witness yourself. And what I would do is put the bigger end of the egg at the entrance of my yoni and just roll the egg around. Like, this is usually after like a beautiful breast massage or belly massage, and then touching my vulva, and I'm ready. Like, it's all about consent, really, like waiting until you receive a yes from your yoni to be entered, because so often we have not had consent to fully any sexual, even if it's a finger or even if it's a tampon, like just waiting to receive that yet. Yeah, it's so important. And so I would just sit there and open my legs and just massage my vulva and my entrance of the vagina with the egg, and kind of just gently guide the egg in, usually with a bit of coconut oil or something, and then kind of grip around it. And I used to love the feeling of an egg rather than something long and phallic and kind of penis shaped. I really enjoyed this like beautiful, like I could clench around it and sort of suck it in, like swallow it in. And then I'd sort of pull on the string and pull it back to the entrance. And as I kept doing this, it really just started to feel good. And I could quite easily have this internal orgasm just from that. And it's very slow. It is like slower than slow. And I'd, rather than vigorously touching my clitoris, I would actually massage my clit like something so soft and sacred, like rather than just really pressure and vigorous touch, just massaging it really seductively and sensually. And it was just a totally different orgasm. And so after that experience, I was like, well, I still do like, long phallic shaped things. So I'm just going to start to design crystal wands. And then it sort of grew into glass wands and different shapes and sizes.
Wow. Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is it's really a journey of rediscovering our yonis and, reprogramming or desensitizing so that we can feel them again. And this has been my experience as well. Like I too was like loved the vibrators, every day. If I was alone every day. And for me, like now I've just let them run flat. Haven't used them in months because these crystal wands are so powerful. And I think because most women, their experience of pleasure and orgasm, most people, and it's not everyone, but like most people, it starts with the clitoris, right? So they're used to like experiencing a certain type of pleasure with the clitoris. It's actually the other way around for me. So like I discovered my G-spot when I was like having my first sexual boyfriends. It was all about the G-spot. And then I didn't discover my clitoris until much later. So, but I know for most people, it's the other way around. But what we're doing here with the crystal ones is literally helping people like have a completely new experience of pleasure, because we're so used to pleasure feeling like this localized external part of the yoni, and it's just a completely different experience, isn't it?
It really is. And it's like carving out a new neural pathway, but I'm going to call it a pleasure pathway, because we're so used to doing something and we know how to do it. And you know what? I think vibrators are actually fantastic because they help women who maybe don't know how to give themselves an orgasm or a clitoral orgasm. And I know lots of women who have had no idea, and then they get a vibrator and they can finally have one. So I think they're incredibly empowering, sexually empowering for women.
That's very true.
Yeah. So I'm not saying ditch your vibrator completely. However, I am saying if you have a bit of a reliance on it, and I'm not going to say addiction, but a reliance. And if you tend to reach for it when you're with your partner, that's when I feel like there comes a little bit of an issue, because it's like I do believe you do need clitoral stimulation to have a simultaneous orgasm during sex with a partner quite often, unless you're just having internal orgasms. But you really don't necessarily need, or if you have that reliance on the vibrator, it can kind of come between you a little bit. And I've had that happen in relationships, and then the partner might feel a bit redundant. And so the more you kind of maybe even self-pleasure one day with the vibrator and then the next time without it, and just keep, kind of weaning yourself off it. But it's not, I don't want to say it's bad, because that's kind of going back on everything that I believe in. It's just, there's just other ways to have orgasms and to self-pleasure. And I teach a really beautiful self-pleasure practice in the Golden Yoni membership group, which is just basically a little bit more in depth, but like what I shared, leaning back onto something, witnessing yourself in the mirror. And I have these gorgeous new squirt blankets, these waterproof blankets that you can put down. And it's amazing how blocked we become if we feel like we're going to wet the bed or wet the floor, or like if we don't fully feel like we can let go, we won't. And so what I realized is like having these blankets is really good to so you can release fluid if it's there, and you want to learn how to squirt. It's quite nice to be able to fully let go in front of yourself, not needing porn, not needing a vibrator, not even really needing any toys. You can do all this with your fingers.
Wow, completely. Yeah, I totally hear you about the vibrators, and I'm curious to know, because I've had a few people ask me about this. Like, if you're someone that has never had an orgasm, would you recommend that they start with vibrators, or would you recommend that they start straight off with the crystal ones and the jade eggs?
Oh, it's tricky, because if you start off with vibrators, look what happened to me. I became obsessed and stuck with it for many years. So it's kind of, I often do say to people, like, your first sexual experiences often dictate your sex, your sexual tastes, your sexual desires. It's so funny. My first sexual experience, I was about 6 years old with another girl. And here I am, 33 years old, finally in a relationship with a girl. And that's actually been what I've deep down always actually wanted. So I would actually say, and I get this question a lot, is, what do I start with? You've got such a huge choice of wands and eggs. I actually do suggest starting with an egg, because the egg it really helps to connect you to that space in a way that's not needing to, give yourself pleasure. And that actually resensitizes. So you're going to be more likely to have internal orgasms. Even using an egg with your vibrator, or using a crystal wand with a vibrator, that's fine. But really do try, I guess, with the eggs and the wands first. And then you can incorporate in the vibrator for sure. I know a lot of women who use our sacred squirter with their Satisfier Pro, the clit sucky thing. And it works well for them, that's fine. I don't need it. If I find that if I use a vibrator, it takes me a much longer the next time to have an orgasm. So I prefer to just do it with my fingers.
Yeah, totally. And there's no right or wrong. I think it's so important to say that every woman is so different, and you're going to experience different kinds of pleasure, and you're going to find your own way of like what you like and what you don't like, and just be on a journey of exploration. Hi, my loves. This episode is brought to you by the Yoni Pleasure Palace. So this is a place to go for all of your crystal wands, your crystal dildos, your sex toys that are more sensual, and your yoni egg. So today I want to talk to you about this yoni egg, the rose quartz yoni egg, which is really beautiful for healing trauma inside of your vagina, and it's also going to help you strengthen your pelvic floor muscles. So a really good place to start is with this little miracle egg right here. Go to yonipleasurepalace.com, use the code Melissa to get 25% off your entire order. It's the best discount you will find online. And without further ado, let's get on with the show. And I think one of the patterns that you're breaking around, like from making that switch to more using crystal wands and eggs, is for me, what I've found is like it's really bringing like sensuality back to sex, because for me, my self-pleasure practice was so goal oriented. It was so quick. It was so like boom boom boom, get my orgasm, get out of here, get on with my day. And with the crystal wands, you can't really do that. You've got to honor your body. You've got to really take your time. You've got to warm yourself up. You've got to ask for consent. And it feels like lovemaking rather than giving yourself a quickie.
That is so right. And one of my friends the other day mentioned on her Instagram, she was like, I just realized that I've been giving myself these quickies, like 3 to 5 minute quickies, for most of my sexual life, masturbation life. And she's like, if I went and hooked up with a guy and he just fucked me for 5 minutes and then left, would I feel fulfilled? Would I date him again? Would I see him again? Absolutely not. And so it's interesting, isn't it, that we do that to ourselves, like have these quickies, these get it over and done with genital sneeze orgasms, and they feel amazing. It's not that they don't feel great, but would you want your partner to do that to you? How would you feel if your partner penetrated you and just sort of fucked you and left? it would probably make you feel quite a little bit empty, a little bit used, if you know what I mean. So reframing, and I talk about this a lot in the Golden Yoni membership, is like taking your time. Most women, well, a lot of women take from 30 minutes to over an hour to even get aroused, to even, get close to an orgasm. And yet a lot of our partners sort of tend to, can climax and ejaculate quite easily and quite quickly, but we actually need a lot more time. And we actually need it to be quite a bit slower and more, like a surrendering process, a sensual process. And I'm not saying this all the time, because everyone likes a hard and fast bang every now and again. But I think it's really important that if you're wanting to have these deeper orgasms and really have an orgasm with your partner, because it's most people will know how to give themselves an orgasm. You know your body, you know what you like. But to actually have that experience with a partner, it's vulnerable. You have to be really open and vulnerable. And if you're not having an orgasm with your partner, there might be some alarm bells around what's going on. But definitely letting yourself take your time.
I think that's such a key point, because we do live in such a fast-paced world that it's no surprise really that we are, as a culture, the same in the bedroom. Like, we want to just get it done and get it done fast and get what we came for. And I think, the conversation really needs to be had, not just with the women but with the men as well, of like, this is how long it can take, like a conversation of patience and not rushing. Because I think if you've watched porn and that's been your only kind of reference point, things are hard and fast. The people are coming on demand, and there's no kind of like, there's not the sensual intimacy and the deep connection and real surrender that that women really truly need. And I think this is why, so many women are used to faking orgasms, which is just, to me, like, just such a I feel like it's just cheating yourself out of something magical, and also cheating your partner. So how can we start to have more open conversations with our partners about sex, if we are kind of having this sexual awakening and starting to realize that actually what we need is actually very different than what we've been doing for the last however many years?
Absolutely. Well, we need to start talking about it. We need to stop faking orgasms, and I've done that before, and it's it's not going to get you what you really want. We need to stop thinking that we can have an orgasm in 5 minutes. Stop faking orgasms, and start having these discussions with your partner outside of the bedroom. So I always suggest to couples, if they're having this block, it is natural for there to be, discrepancies in each other's libido and orgasm potential and all this kind of stuff. But it is important that you sit down together outside of the bedroom, because if you're doing it in the bedroom just before sex or after sex, people are more likely to get triggered and get hurt and take it personally. But if you're sitting down with a cup of coffee at the dining table and you're having like an adult conversation about this, and really letting your partner know what it is you need. And that comes back to self-pleasure. When you start to self-pleasure, pleasure yourself in a way that's making love to yourself, like actually make love to yourself in a way that you want your partner to, because that'll start to set the scene, that'll start to set the tone for what you expect in your sexual relationships. So sitting down with your partner and actually mapping out what it is that you desire, what you need. And if you don't feel comfortable to do that with your partner, then obviously there's some deeper issues there. But I did a video on this, because a lot of women are feeling like, when you get to that point in sex and you go, you can hurry up and come now. So not doing that, because if you tell them to just hurry up and come and get it over with, you're not, it's important for you to be a little bit selfish too, and to ask for what you need. We're so used to, in our patriarchal kind of society, it's just sort of giving everything pleasure, babies, everything is for the other, and it's important that you reclaim your pleasure and your needs in sex, and you deserve that. Pleasure is our birthright. Don't think I've really I remember I've had lots of beautiful tantric lovers over the years, but there was this one guy that I met on Tinder, and I've hardly ever gone on Tinder, and I met him on Tinder, and we started having sex, and he would ejaculate within 5 to 10 minutes and wouldn't even ask me, have you orgasmed? Did you want to orgasm? How do I make you orgasm? And it happened a couple of times, and I tried to express a few things, and for me, it's just a deal breaker. If somebody's not willing to really prioritize my pleasure as well, then boy, bye. Find the door. It's
totally. And it's the same as expecting oral but not being willing to give it. What's up with that? That's very common, and I think a lot of women accept that as well. They accept, oh, I give it, but I don't receive it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for some people it's a cultural thing, a religious thing. It's definitely very common, and I've had that in a relationship once as well. And again, deal breaker. Sorry, but oral's my favorite thing in the whole wide world, and I'm in a same-sex relationship now, so most of our sex is based around that. And I think if a lot of women can't orgasm, it's because they're not getting good oral sex. Oral sex is the key in my humble opinion, is the key to the female orgasm. I'm talking tongue and fingers. Let's go back to basics. I tell a lot of my couples clients to take sex off the menu, as in penis in vagina sex, and go back to passionate kissing. Open the mouth, kiss through. How many times a day do you open mouth kiss your partner? Go back to touching each other's, fondling each other's breasts, and hand jobs and fingering, and that actually starts to ignite the pleasure again, and that sort of erotic innocence. And I think that's really we kind of prioritize sex a lot, and I really think actually coming back to manual stimulation, oral stimulation, and really not being afraid to really receive. I think a lot of women block themselves from having oral because they're scared of what they smell like. They're scared of what they taste like. They're scared of what it looks like. You need to get really in tune. Taste your own yoni. Smell your own yoni every single day. I'm so in tune. I'll look at every time I wipe my vagina at the toilet, I'll look at what's there, just in case. It's very important to get so in tune and in touch with your own yoni. And, then, of course, you're going to expect that from your partner, and it's important that your partner's in tune with it as well.
Absolutely. And going back to this conversation is very arousing, by the way. I am very turned on. But going back to what you were saying about oral sex, for me, giving and receiving oral, it's you are worshipping at the altar of your partner and showing them your devotion and your adoration. So being with a partner who can give you that will just make you feel like such a goddess. And I think all of us deserve to feel like that. If someone is going down on us and they're we can kind of tell that they're not really liking it, and they kind of just want to come back up so they can just get on with receiving on there, and we can feel it. It's not a nice feeling, and you're not gonna be able to completely relax and surrender. So I agree, total deal breaker.
And if somebody needs to be down there for 45 minutes to over an hour, that's what you need. And this is something I mentioned in one of the videos I did the other day, was it's ideal, we don't need, but it's ideal if your partner can sit down and say to you, babe, I'll be down here as long as you need. Just giving us permission to take our time, to say to us, take as long as you need. I need it. So it's very common to not be able to orgasm in the first 3 to 6 months in a relationship, because you're learning about your partner. You're, starting to become open to them and what feels good and how safe you feel, and you're testing out the boundaries. So it's normal for 3 to 6 months of like not being able to climax. But if it's still happening after 6 months and you've been in a relationship, very important to actually maybe get a sex therapist or a relationship coach to talk about this stuff, because it's common, but it's not normal. And it's really important to have that discussion with your partner and feel like, because a lot of women will kind of shut down and just switch off because they don't want to put their partner out. Like, oh, I don't want you to hurt your tongue and your mouth or your fingers and make you feel like you're needing to take too long. Like we often put our partner's needs above our own. And, there's going to be different situations where you have to. But when it comes to oral sex, it's really, women really struggle with it, because it's like you are fully receiving and you are owning your pleasure and you're willing to, open and receive pleasure.
So good. And I think there's like such a story that like in that first 3-6 months, people always think, oh, couples are having so much sex in that first, that's going to be their best sex, because they're just at it all the time, it's all new, hormones, blah blah blah. And it's not actually true, because it's just kind of, this just proves like our bodies need to be opened, they need to be respected. There's time it takes to learn our yonis so that we can actually, you don't just, when you like every single yoni, I always say to my clients, like it's like it's like learning a new instrument. You don't just like pick it up and you're like playing a symphony straight away. You like take the time to like learn it and like know how different strings work and learn which buttons make you moan, and then you teach someone else how to play a symphony, and you play a symphony with each other. But that's not something that happens straight away, because the learning takes time. And so I really believe that if a couple is really, if both partners are really invested in each other and taking time and going on this journey together and talking about it, I think you can be in relationships where your sex just gets better and better and better, rather than being this thing of like, we did it loads in the beginning and we've got to keep trying to get back to there.
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head, is you actually have to teach them. You cannot expect your partner to know exactly what you like. Like because I couldn't orgasm for the first maybe 3 or 4 months in my relationship with the woman I'm with now. And I just remember her saying so clearly, she was like, I will take as long as you need, because I was embarrassed that it was taking me too long. And so I just kept I call it orgasm self-sabotage. It's like just, cock blocking myself basically. And I actually had to teach her. I'm like, okay, no, I like this many fingers. I like this pressure on my clitoris. I like it side to side, not up and down. Like, you've got to know exactly what your vulva, your vagina, your clitoris like. And you know what the funniest thing is that it changes every day. We are so cyclical and every day is different. So, you've got to have a partner who's willing to enjoy like my partner loves how much of a challenge I am. Thank God, because I am quite challenging. She's up for the challenge.
I love it. So let's talk about you and this beautiful partnership that you're in. I know that now you guys are consciously conceiving. I would love to hear like more about your journey of really embracing your sexuality and like being in love with a woman when you had spent so many years, I'm assuming, only being with men. How was that journey for you? And talk to us about like what the future holds for you guys.
Yeah, I've always been with men. I've had a few little flings with women, usually drunken flings when I was in my early 20s. And it was interesting. Like, as I was getting older, like my late 20s, early 30s, I really started to feel more drawn to women. And yeah, I remember seeing Ash. I was invited to a Jungle Body event, which is like a dance fitness event. And I just remember seeing her up on stage, and I was just like, I'm in love with, like, it was just this instant weird feeling that I felt like wet. At the same time, I felt like my heart buzzing, and then like my head was like, oh my God, I want to know more about her. Like as soon as I saw her on stage, it was like this instant recognition, this instant arousal, this instant pull. And I'm like, wait. I'm in a relationship with a man. I ended up stalking her on Instagram. She was with a man. So I was like, okay, she's obviously not a lesbian. Wait a second, I'm not a lesbian. What is this all about? It was very, very confusing at the time.
Wow.
Very confusing. But I knew, and we both started following each other on Instagram. And then it was about 3 years later, I just reached out to her and just said to her, I mean, we'd been chatting a little bit, but not very much. And I just said to her, are you into women? Because I'm getting this, like, I'm just feeling like you're a lesbian. And she was like, actually, I am into women, but I'm married. And she had just had a baby, and I was like, okay, that's all right. But she's like, but I've had a crush on you for 3 years. And so we both, it was this, I'm like, are you kidding me? And so we both realized that we had this mutual crush, but we'd never really spoken about it. And then we decided to catch up in person, and the connection was there, and it was a bit scary because we were both in quite happy relationships. We were both with men, and it was a very strange experience where we had to, I mean, the connection, the love was undeniable, and we couldn't not be together. We thought we would just tell our partners, hey, I have this girl crush. Do you mind if we explore, have a little sexual connection, and then go back to our partners? That was our intention from the beginning. And then when we caught up in person, we realized actually it's a lot more. And we didn't even have sex for, like I said, about 2 or 3 months later. So yeah, we both ended our relationship and got together, and now here we are about 2.5 years later. And I've never wanted babies, Mel. Like my baby's Yoni Pleasure Palace. Like that's always been my baby, and where I've put all my creative energy. But Ash definitely wanted more kids, and then it's just been this past few months that we've really decided that we want to conceive, and we both felt like it was important for us to have a known donor. So when you're in a same-sex relationship, or if you're a single woman, or whatever the situation, and you want to conceive, you've got 2 choices: unknown donor or known donor. The unknown donor is generally, most of the time, frozen sperm, and like you go through a clinic, and it's all very medical, it's all very clinical, and often a lot of clinics don't have a lot of choice. They'll have like 5 to 10 donors, and often they're imported from the US, here in Australia anyway. I'm not sure about over there, but yeah, the quality of the sperm, it lowers quite dramatically when it is frozen. So we always knew we wanted a known donor, we wanted fresh sperm, and we wanted to, we wanted a someone who looked similar to Ash's daughter, who's blonde hair and blue eyed. And so we recently, wrote down everything that we wanted, and did a little meditation together, a little ritual, and the donor has come in, and yeah, it's just been a really beautiful experience so far. And I feel like I want to educate more people about this, because you don't necessarily need to be married with a male to have a partner. It's important to know what your choices are. We have a group in Australia called the Sperm Donation Australia, and there's been over 1,000 births through known artificial and natural insemination. We wanted artificial insemination, like turkey baster, basically. I didn't want to have sex with the donor. But women, if there's single women out there who want to have sex with the donor, they can. But it's obviously important to have all the legalities mapped out as well. But yeah, there's a lot of incredible donors in the group, and I'm sure there is in the US and all over the world. Certain Facebook groups that, you can actually put, basically what we did is we just put an ad in this Facebook group, and we're inundated with responses, and obviously a lot of them didn't fit the profile that we wanted. And we actually met up with one of them, and it just, as soon as I told him what I did for work, what my business was, he was a full body no. He switched off, he stopped talking. Yeah. And it was like he ticked all the boxes. He was absolutely like perfect.
I don't understand. Like, why?
And then we just got talking about my business, and this is the sexual shame. It's not just in women, it's in men, it's in everyone.
Wow.
And he was so mortified at Yoni, well, just the work that I do. And I said to Ash when we left, I was like, I don't think that was a fit. And I want my donor, notice I don't say the word dad or father or it's biological donor, to be in alignment with who I am. I'm not going to, shadow my children around sexuality. Like, it's just, this is what's happened to me as a child. I'm not going to do it to my children. And I'm really glad that I mentioned what I did for work because, I wouldn't want that energy.
Yeah, thank goodness.
In my body.
What a good swerve.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was a no, and then
we have found the perfect donor for us, and we've done the insemination process, and now it's just like a bit of a waiting game. And we did it's a lot. I mean, you've got to do all the ovulation tests and find out when your body's ovulating. So it's a really exciting process, and I can understand for a lot of women it's really heartbreaking. So I'm on the fertility journey as we speak, and it's really exciting.
Oh, it's so beautiful to see you on this journey and to witness both of your love together, your love for each other. It's so beautiful. You're going to make the most incredible parents, mothers. I'm so excited to watch this journey unfold for you, and just
Thank
the magic.
you.
And just thank you for so openly sharing your love. I think it's so beautiful to see that in same-sex couples just being so openly expressive and passionate with each other online. Everything you do, Rosie, is just like destigmatizing everything, like getting rid of the shame in every single area, whether it's naked yoga, whether it's self-pleasure, whether it's like same-sex relationships, like I'm here for all of it, and I'm just so grateful for you for being who you are and for showing up in the way that you do.
Oh, thank you so much. You make me sound like such a ballsy bitch. And you know what? I'm terrified of heights. I'm like the biggest chicken. I can't even do a headstand. And yet when it comes to these systemic sexual issues that we have in our life around, shame around our bodies, body image issues, and nudity being overly sexualized, and women being objectified, and self-pleasure, all these things, even same-sex relationships, I guess, is still like quite taboo in some corners of the planet.
Totally.
I'm just going right into it, and I just feel like I need to destigmatize these areas of female sexuality. It just feels like this should be normal by now. I feel like this should be normal.
Yeah. In fact, speaking of like should be normal, like something that I've often like thought about or wondered when I've been using the crystal wands from Yoni Pleasure Palace. By the way, guys, use the code Melissa to get 25% off your order. Let's just get that in there. When I've been using these crystal toys and talking about them with different people in my community and clients, I've thought to myself, like, I wonder where the market is at the moment, like the mainstream sex shops and lingerie shops and the shops that are selling these, vibrators, and like, where are they in the whole crystal wand conversation? Are they catching up? Are they completely not with the times? Like, is this going to go mainstream anytime soon? What do you think?
If it is, I'm going to take it there. Like, I went into a sex toy shop here in Perth the other day, and just to have a sticky beak around and have a look and see what's out there. I mean, there's definitely glass dildos in there, and there's a few metal ones here and there which we stock, but there's definitely no crystal. So, I feel like that's kind of our next next level, next benchmark is to penetrate the adult shop market, which I'm I'm not overly excited about it, but because, you know, essentially crystals are, everyone looks different. So trying to package that up in a package with a barcode, and you know, everyone's got this different preference of the color and this and that, and it's so already selling a typically imperfect good from Mother Earth is quite difficult to, you know, to package that up, because obviously anything made of silicon or glass or metal can be physically, you know, it can be completely perfect. It's man-made. So it's definitely somewhere I want to take it, because it just feels like when you walk into these sex toy shops, it's just what you see on the websites, and it's all very plastic and gimmicky, and I would love there to be more tasteful sex toy shops, and it's something that I am definitely aiming towards releasing, like a Yoni Pleasure Palace boutique shop front.
Babes,
would just be divine.
I will be there. I will be there. I will be knocking on. I will be the first customer. I will be at that launch for sure. And I also just want to revisit the pun, which was not lost on me, that you wanted to penetrate the mainstream of the sex toy shops. We didn't get to, but I just wanted to, for everyone that was like, ha ha ha. Yeah, we didn't miss that.
I think I nearly missed it.
It was perfect. It was perfect. So, Rosie, tell everyone like how they can come and get your goodies and work with you and be a part of your world.
Oh, well, you can come on over to Yoni.
Yes.
to YoniPleasurePalace.com. Our Instagram is Yoni_pleasure_palace. We also have a Sacred Squirter Instagram as well, which is just dedicated to squirting and G-spot orgasms. And then my personal page is rosie.rees, REES, and my website's rosierees.com. There's also Nude Yoga. So we have 10 instructors all over Australia now. Unfortunately, none over in the US or the UK yet. But since COVID, I can't really do another training anytime soon, like a Naked Awakening facilitator training. But if you go to nakedawakening.com.au, they have all the classes all over Australia.
Love that. Almost forgot. I ask all of my guests these 3 questions, and would love to ask you. So, love, sex, and magic. I'd love to hear something that you are really loving right now.
I am loving. The first thing that came to me was putting avocado in my smoothie. Avocado and chia, and making it really gooey and yummy, and yeah, I love that.
Yum. And one thing that turns you on.
Well, one thing that's turning me on at the moment is Ash and I went to a dominatrix workshop. And what's turning me on is exploring new territory for her turn on. So mine as well, but definitely finding all of her subtle turn-ons that she didn't even know she has, and that's really turning me on.
Oh, I love this. I feel like we need to do another podcast episode all about that now. But that sounds really interesting. Love it. And finally, the last time you experienced magic.
Yesterday I saw, so when we know we have a name for our baby, and yesterday I've been seeing the name everywhere, and yesterday I was like, I'm just looking for a sign, and it was printed over this car. Like I opened my car door, and then the name was printed on the side of the car, and I just stopped. I was like, my mouth was wide open. I couldn't believe it. I was like, okay, I hear you. Thank you. That was pretty magic.
Wow. Love that. Oh, Rosie, this has been so special. I know everyone is going to just have absolutely loved soaking up this conversation and all of your magic. So thank you so much for joining me. We're going to hop over now and take a few more questions inside the Goddess Collective. But this has been just so perfect, and I'm so grateful to have connected with you and had this conversation.
Likewise, I'm incredibly honored. Thank you for having me.
So, loves, I hope you got so much from that episode. I hope it made you feel wet and juicy and enlivened in yourself. As always, if you want extra behind the scenes footage, come and join us inside the Goddess Collective. Please share this podcast. Tag me on the gram so I can reshare it. I would love your feedback. Love to hear how you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you guys next week. Bye for now.